Hi, my name is Peyton Williams, and you're watching Brazil and Back Again. Back in May of 2019, so a couple months ago, I had the privilege of traveling to Brazil with the Kansas State volleyball team. We went to Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo primarily, mostly to play volleyball, but also to experience some of the culture.
People stopping still.
We first arrived in Saquarema, a little village area outside of Rio. We were always called the Centro de Desenvolvimento de Voleibol. Hopefully I didn't butcher that, but basically it's just the Center for Volleyball Development in Brazil. The first thing we did when we got there was we put our bags in our room, and we went and ate food. And then we walked around a little bit and we practiced. This is what we would be doing most of our time in Saquarema, was playing volleyball. We got to train alongside some of the Brazilian national teams, which was awesome. So we practiced for a little bit, and then we all put our swimsuits on and just went to the ocean. We just threw ourselves in the ocean, and then the ocean threw us around, honestly. Fun fact, we later on found out that we were not supposed to go swimming in that beach because apparently some powerful undertows. It could be quite dangerous, but thankfully we were all safe. Everyone was fine, and it was really awesome. Just a good way to relax after a long day of travel. Our time in Saquarema was mostly spent, like I said, practicing and scrimmaging the national teams of Brazil. Incredible experience and very unique. We were there for about 2 to 2.5 days. Then we went from Saquarema back to Rio de Janeiro.
Simbora sim!
Rio, everyone knows Rio, and we went to the famous beach, Copacabana Beach. Stayed right on the waterfront, which was awesome. There's also a little market along the beach where vendors were selling things, trinkets and Christ the Redeemer merchandise and paintings, people trading and selling all these really colorful wares. So Rio obviously is a big tourist destination. It was a location of the Olympics, and it's most known for its prominent feature, the Christ the Redeemer statue. The statue is 98 feet tall, and its arms outstretched to 92 feet wide. It's on top of Mount Corcovado, I think is how you say that. It overlooks all of the the coastline of Rio and most of the city. The statue itself is made out of soapstone, which is a very resistant material, which is why it was chosen, and also because it has kind of a nice, soft, off-white color. And it's also the largest work of art done in a particular style of Art Deco, which is a style that was popular in the 1920s and 30s, and it's comprised of like small triangles. Like if you look closely at the statue, it's made up of small triangles, which is really cool. So we went in our vans as a team, and we had a tour guide, and we wound up Mount Corcovado. It was misty and rainy, but we hoped that we could, see the statue. You get out of the van at a little stopping point, then you get in another separate van that's not part of our tour. We wound up some more. We get out, then we walk up some stairs, and there it is, Christ the Redeemer.
You literally can't see anything.
We can't see it. It's in this shroud of mist. Allegedly this beautiful view that you see in pictures. You can't see anything. We were on the top of a mountain and it just disappeared into nothingness, which was kind of a bummer. So the clouds would kind of part for a little bit and we would see Christ the Redeemer in all his glory. We were waiting and waiting for it to kind of clear up, and then it starts to rain.
Hey guys, I'm here with KM1 Channel News. We're here in the rain with the fog to the left and right. Christ the Redeemer just left that way. You can see how he's always with us.
Yes, love it. Our experience is rare because apparently it doesn't rain very much, or it doesn't do this very often. So we had a unique experience. Woo. Obviously, I can't tell you about the view, but I've heard it's amazing. Next, we went down to Sugarloaf Mountain. Sugarloaf Mountain is basically out, just slightly out away from Rio. Apparently, it resembles when they transferred loaves of concentrated sugar. Those loaves of sugar looked like the shape of this mountain, which is where it got its name. The mountain is 1,300 feet tall. We got on a little gondola and we rode up to this intermediary zone and then onto the Sugarloaf Mountain. I didn't see the view from Chrysler Redeemer, but the view from Sugarloaf Mountain was incredible. Half of our group went back to the hotel at that point, and the rest of us went on another extended tour where we visited 2 other main locations. We went to this place called Parque Lage. It's basically this beautiful mansion this guy named Enrique Lage owned that was remodeled in the early 1920s, I believe, and is now a public park that people can go see. And it's beautiful. It's not super crowded. It's a little off the beaten path for most tourists and is highly worth it because it's just so picturesque. Then we went to the Botanical Gardens. This is really incredible, honestly, because it's one of the largest botanical gardens in the world, I believe. It was created by this prince back in like the early 1800s. Basically, this prince wanted to have a place where if he found plants in his travels that could have been beneficial for Brazil, he could bring them back to this garden in order for them to acclimate and then eventually become part of Brazilian agriculture and horticulture. Just kind of involved in this really awesome, beautiful place that houses over 7,000 plant species in it. There's, little groves of cacti just around. There's a whole little house of orchids. There's rows and rows of giant palm trees, like colonnades of palm trees just lining the path. So there's just all sorts of different kinds of plant life here. If you were looking for something relaxing to do, take a stroll through the Botanical Gardens. That kind of sums up our touristic part of Rio that we experienced. I'm going to take this opportunity now to talk about some of the daily life aspects. We were traveling as tourists and we were only in Brazil for 10 days. So the daily life that I got to experience was the food. Let's start by talking about what's called a brigadeiro. A brigadeiro is basically a chocolate truffle. Chocolatey inside, then coated again with chocolate on the outside, and then chocolate sprinkles are all over the top of it. It is rich and it's very popular in Brazil. If you get it, highly recommend a glass of milk because it is rich. Brazil is also famous for their meats. They're a leading exporter in beef, and they're just very big into barbecued type meat. Brazil is also one of the leading exporters in coffee, so the coffee there is very good. Acai is very popular in Brazil. Acai is a superfood that grows on palms in South America especially, and in tropical locations. It's rich in antioxidants and is just generally good for your health. They serve it in acai bowls, and you can get like mix-ins, traditionally fruit, granola, etc. There's also something called the pão de queijo. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's basically little bread cheese balls. They're very popular. They had some in the hotels that we stayed at. Very easy to eat and very easy to make, it seems. The last thing I experienced was something called coxinha. It's a very popular street food. I like to think of it as a to-go pot pie. Like I said, we were there as tourists and we didn't get to experience a lot of daily life. So the food is how we experienced it. And then we went to Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is one of the biggest cities in the world with a population of 12 million people. There was traffic 24/7 and you could see only skyscrapers for miles and miles. So we flew from Rio to Sao Paulo. It wasn't a long flight, about an hour I think. We were there for, again, 2.5 days. Sao Paulo is a huge city. It's not per se a touristy city like Rio. It's more of like a business area. That being said, there are still things to do when we were there. We went to the Sao Paulo Cathedral. It was beautiful, as most cathedrals are. Very nice, just walk around and experience a mass in Portuguese. Second, we went to the municipal market. It's an indoor market where lots of people are selling fruit, wares, clothing, souvenirs, etc. You can find basically anything in there. And our team bought out every single strawberry in a chocolate-covered strawberry stand. Third, there's an area that we walked through called Liberdade. It's a Japanese area. Brazil has the second highest population of Japanese people outside of Japan. So naturally you have a lot of really great sushi restaurants and amazing Japanese food. So we stopped in, got some sushi, would highly recommend. There's really excellent sushi places there in that area. Fourth, something you can see as you're going to all these places is the incredible street art in Brazil. There's standard graffiti as in any city, but there's also incredible breathtaking works of art. Some of the works of art that you can see are done by two famous brothers called the Cobra Brothers, who are from Sao Paulo originally, but have now gone on to do works of art in places all around the world. Our fifth and final thing that we did was on the last day, we went to the very top of our hotel where a helicopter was waiting for us, and we took a helicopter ride over the city. We flew around and you couldn't see where the skyscrapers ended. I'm not sure how we got to do that, but I would recommend it if you could. Finally, the struggles within Brazil. As I've mentioned, we were there primarily as tourists and as volleyball players, so we didn't get to see the daily life or the struggles of the area. However, there are struggles within these places. The primary thing that is very apparent in these areas is what are called favelas, basically ghettos within the cities. They are comprised of ghost houses. People build these little ramshackle houses on these properties to avoid paying taxes and avoid paying mortgages because they can't afford to live anywhere else. These favelas are run by the mafia. In fact, there are tours that you can go on that will take you to some of the favelas that are run by the mafia, because the mafia has a deal with the tourism industry. The mafia is also a huge problem, and there are ties to the mafia and the police department, so the police is obviously somewhat corrupt. Something else that we experienced on a sort of minor struggle level, when we interacted with the athletes at the training center, it was very clear that the collegiate athletics were not competitive within Brazil. They weren't necessarily getting a college education while they're pursuing their athletic goals. We were talking with some of the men training there, and we asked them what life would look like after volleyball for them, or if they didn't make a team, or if they got injured. And they just shrugged. They didn't know. It's because there are no collegiate programs, or at least not any that are competitive. These athletes are left without a plan to fall back on if their plans as an athlete fall through. We have the luxury of pursuing an education and also pursuing an athletic career. This is not the case for these athletes. This has been Brazil and Back Again, as we looked at what it's like to be a tourist, primarily on this trip, and a little bit into what it's like to live daily in Brazil, and what it's like to experience some of the struggles within Brazil. Thanks for watching.